Folks, it's the Katface Killa, here to surprise you with another title. And I know I'm mostly known for manga, a little bit of anime, but I actually want to talk about a literary novel, which should be fairly well known. I mean, it spawned the game series Metro 2033. I actually played the sequel to that, Metro Last Light 2034, which made me want to read this book. And I believe there's another game coming out, Metro 2035. I'm not 100% on that because I'm not a big gamer, but I'm not really here to talk about the games anyways. I'm here to talk about the novel, Metro 2033. Now, in this book, the setting it's set in Moscow, Russia. There was a war. Russia got scorched with nuclear weapons. And at least to this metro system, the survivors of humanity all live in the metro system. And I thought that concept was pretty interesting for a number of things. Because one, I'm not really that familiar with Russia, so I always like a breath of fresh air when it comes to my settings. It's part of the reason why I really like Gundream, set in North America. I really like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the Globetrot. Don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against Japan, but I like my stories to be more diverse, you know what I mean, geographically. So, there's also the fact that it's called Metro 2033, because most of the story takes place in the metro system. Personally speaking, I haven't really read anything where a dude is basically stuck in a cave, a cave system. So that kind of appealed to me too. I don't want to draw a whole lot of comparisons to the video game series, especially since I've only played one and it wasn't the direct video game from the novel, but the sequel. But there are a little bit of comparisons to draw to them, which I guess I'll touch on that towards the end of the recording. But going back to the book, the setting's very simple. It follows this guy named Artyom, who's 20 years old. He spent his whole life at the end of this metro line, and that's his home, is this station that's kind of cut off from the rest. Each station, basically, if it's inhabited, is kind of like a city-state, I guess. Some of them are small, like 50 people or less. Some of them are large, like 1,000, maybe more people. They're never super exact most of the time with the population sizes, but you can see a difference from a small station to a big one while you're reading the book, and it's fine. Now, Artyom, he was adopted by a guy who was not able to save his mother, but when he was a really young boy, he managed to save Artyom, and he's like the leader of this station, basically. And this station has a unique problem that other stations don't have to deal with, in which there's a race of beings that live on the surface that they call the Dark Ones, who radiate like a psychic aura that's very debilitating to people, to humans. And it drives them crazy, it saps their willpower, it does not mesh well with people. And, obviously they're weakening over time, and these Dark Ones will try to get into the station, and this is becoming more and more frequent. And anybody can see that it's only a matter of time. Eventually, if this station does not get help, it's going to fall, and then the Dark Ones are going to continue on through the metro line. So, most of the other stations, though, they don't want anything to do with this. Most of them think it's not really their problem. But even the ones that do, they don't have the resources to send to help. So, there is a character named Hunter, though, who apparently has some clout within the politics of the metro system, who comes over, and he's an acquaintance or a friend of Artyom's stepfather, and he feels that the Dark One threat is worth addressing. It's worth for the rest of the metro to deal with. And he even has to do it himself. He's gonna have it addressed. So that's what he comes down to, is he's like, I gotta do this myself. And he pulls Artyom aside at one point, early on in the story. He's like, look, if I don't come back, I need you to take this message to my commanding officer way at the other end of the metro line, and he'll know what to do. And now, obviously Hunter doesn't come back, otherwise we have no story. But what's very interesting about this, that's addressed several times in the story, is there's actually nothing binding Artyom to honoring his word. But he begins the journey to do this, and he decides to see it through. And there's several times where he could there's many times where he can give up, but he decides to go through with it. And the story is just, it's so much more than that, because Artyom was secluded, at this end of the line. But I really like the character in the sense that he's a thinker. There is, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of action and stuff that goes on in this, but compared to the video game, where it's like almost all action, I was really surprised with how philosophical this book was. I really like philosophy, I like thinking, I like pondering things like the meaning of life, which Artyom does. In this book series, Artyom questions many philosophical issues, from destiny versus free will, to why is he doing what he's doing. He doesn't actually have to do it, but that's an issue he works through regardless on his own. Mankind's history, the destiny of the race, the fate of the metro system, just all sorts of stuff. There's even not a debate, but they go into questioning the concept of time, because there's no sunlight in the metro. It's just whatever light they make is from fire or from electricity. So what is the purpose of time? Some stations, it's very revered. The guys who can maintain the clocks and stuff are honored, and it's very important. People really freak out if something goes wrong with the station clocks. And it's like that for where Artyom lived, and he doesn't question it until later on a character points out everybody lives underground now. What's the point? You don't really need time anymore. In fact, this character named Khan even goes on to state he thinks time moves differently for other people, and it's very interesting and fascinating sort of concept, and you get all sorts of things like that surprisingly in this book. I liked it. This was like a pleasant surprise of a first class for me. And I think in a world where we're oversaturated with zombies and vampires, when you come to post-apocalyptic survival scenarios, I really like this book for so many reasons. I mean, besides the fact that, it's not using either of those sort of antagonists, but it's more of a thinking man's book than it is, if you're looking for like an action-packed adventure or something like that. There's action in it, there's intrigue, there's mystery. The whole storyline is centered around the mystery, but it's just, this book was very interesting to me in the fact that the main character, he's not just a doer, he's also a thinker. The entire book, this character admitted time after time, and it's even frustrating for him. He doesn't really know anything, and people treat him that way too. They treat him like a kid, even though he's 20 years old, and it kind of bothers him. But instead of becoming like a little brat, he tries to learn more, and he tries to do more. He tries to become, he questions ethics a lot, and he tries to find what should be his definition of morals. Even the very end of the book, it's left with a philosophical dilemma where his journey becomes ultimately intertwined with the fate of the Dark Ones, because the conclusion they come to is they either gotta wipe them all out, or there's gonna be some real big problems for the Metro. And it weighs heavily on his consciousness, wiping out a race of other beings that the human race has not really tried anything other than killing when it comes to interactions. I really liked it, and hopefully you like it too. Anyways, you can catch us on Facebook. Just search up Planet Tyro on Facebook. You can see our other archives, video and audio, on YouTube at www.planettyro.com. You can catch me on Twitter at @the_oldboy. Come annoy the shit out of me, I welcome it. You got a differing opinion, or rather you put it on, our video, but you can also bring it up there. Just feel free. And see you around.